Zombies in fiction. That is what we are going to be talking about today. And I know that sounds very deja vu-ish, okay? And if you've been around the channel, you know I love talking about zombies, okay? I'm gonna be real here. Zombies is probably one of my biggest guilty pleasures when it comes to literally any form of media. I don't care if it's books, I don't care if it's movies, TV shows, especially if it's video games. Dying Light is literally in my top 50 games of all time, okay? Because I love this. Walking Dead, watching that as a kid, was literally one of my core memories that I think defined me for the man that I am today, okay? That's how I feel about zombies. However, this is not a tier list video, no. I just want to explain some of my favorite zombies in fiction, and some of them that honestly I think they're neat, but I just want to roast them a little bit, whether from one thing or another. Everything from The Last of Us infected, from the cordyceps virus, to the walkers of The Walking Dead. I want to talk about them in this video, and I want to experiment with a new type of content. Let me know in the comment section whether you like this, and if you do like this, consider like, comment, and subscribe. And I do mean like, if you can get this to, honestly, 5,000 likes, that would mean the absolute most to me. One of the toughest things, I guess, like, toughest parts about being a creator for you guys is honestly just figuring out what you guys want to watch, and I want to experiment with something new because you guys have been giving me a lot of positive feedback, and I want to give back, and I want to do Zombies Explained, and I'm actually feeling pretty excited today. So with all that out of the way, let's get into explaining my favorite and not so favorite zombies in fiction. Let's go. The cordyceps virus from The Last of Us. Okay, I know I said virus, I think I misspoke, but we're already too far gone. The cordyceps fungus. Now, let's just get into this really quick. The cordyceps fungus spread throughout a contaminated crop that went through the entirety of America, infecting our grain and being shipped overseas, and guess what? Also infecting them, okay? This is a cordyceps fungus that already exists in our day-to-day life, and if you guys want to get into the fun facts, there's actually a cordyceps fungus that infects ants, and they go to the tops of like trees, and they let this fungus sprout out of their skulls, and then it busts open, and then it gets all over like the Yo, bro, I didn't mean to make it sound sus, but like the cordyceps virus literally makes you go to the highest point possible, and then some fungus busts out of your head. And then it just absolutely crop dusts the entirety of all the ants beneath it to spread the virus. And I'm going to be honest with you, I would really like if The Last of Us played with something with that, and that'll be some of my critiques of it, but I just want to get into the basics of it. When the cordyceps virus started infecting people, when people originally get infected, it is very simply that these people are infected, okay? They're still in there, they have just been basically hijacked by this cordyceps fungus, and I think that adds to the scary element of The Last of Us that I really do like as a virus, because you get the sense that these are people that are infected, and not so much that this is a supernatural virus. Not like supernatural virus Walking Dead, where there's absolutely no way that these people are sick in the original sense and are actually probably just something supernatural. At least when we're talking about The Last of Us, the cordyceps actually feel like they are infecting somebody that is healthy and that they're still in there at some point. And then as the infection goes on, the fungus is trying to figure out the best way to spread it. So the fungus grows and grows and grows and completely turns them into what would be a clicker, okay? And this clicker starts adapting to its new way of life, and that being through echolocation. It's more armored. It's easier to spread the virus now. And when we go on from that into like a bloater, a bloater is like way more armored. It is basically a tank of what was a human. And then we get into, like, more situational evolutions. Like when we're looking at a rat king, where a ton of other infected have used this fungus and they've sort of more or less merged together, because that is what fungus does in the wild. If you have a ton of the same types of fungus, they're more or less going to grow together and create something that looks a little bit different, but ultimately it's the same organism. And the fungus is just molding together to survive in its ecosystem. And I think that's what I like about the cordyceps the best, is that the cordyceps feel like it's a parasitic organism that is infecting another organism, and all of the evolutions that it's doing, all of the types of zombies that we're getting, don't feel like, oh yeah, here's a spitter, it shoots stomach acid because it wants to hurt you. No, this feels like a fungus that is actively trying to infect as many people as possible. I also like that the fungus is airborne, because that's more realistic to how cordyceps actually work in nature. And honestly, it bothers me to no end that, like, the Last of Us TV show wants to take this realistic turn on, like, how a cure for the cordyceps would operate. But at the same time, they want to be like, oh yeah, the cordyceps, the fungus that's very, very famous for spreading through air. Yeah, how about we just don't do that? I don't know why that bothers me so much, but it just does, okay? And let's talk about the cure really quick. I'm sorry, I gotta be like a actually guy, but that 100% would have not worked in the absolute slightest. You know what? Let's cover the baseline. This is a surgery that has literally never in the history of humanity ever been conducted before. There is absolutely no way that Ellie would have survived. That's not up for debate. We all know that, and it's part of the plot. There's also almost zero way that they would be able to extract the cordyceps fungus that is living inside of Ellie's head and been able to do literal fuck all with it. There is almost no way that you could, because the... Oh, and it bothers me because the show goes out of its way to explain this to you, that you can't cure a fungus the same way that you cure a virus. Okay? Because once it leans into that, then it makes the entirety of Joel's, like, I don't even want to say sacrifice, Joel's decision to save Ellie not just make sense, it is literally the only logical conclusion. If there is no way to cure this fungus, because guess what, there is no medical treatment that you could give that could cause a cordyceps virus to live in your head. That is effectively what you would have to do. The fungus is inside and is the very blood of Ellie that's coursing through her veins has little tiny cordyceps viruses, cordyceps that are going all throughout her body, thus making her unable to be infected, because she is effectively, man, that's a lot of infected, effectively already infected. That is what Ellie is. It's just more latent in her, where it's like, yeah, no, this virus is defective, okay? Which is never explained, by the way. It's just treated as like 1 in a million, which, if we're gonna do that, eventually almost everybody is going to be immune, you know, if Ellie had procreated. That's another thing. Yeah, there's, the medicine, there's no cure to this. There is literally no cure. Everybody has to be infected with this in order for us to actually draw any level of cure out of this. Yeah, no, Joel was 100% justified. I really do like the virus. Now, this is where I'm going to get into some of my gripes. I really do wish that they went straight into, like, way into how the cordyceps would operate, because it would be way scarier. Brother, imagine if, like, all of the clickers in the cordyceps, like, infected had to climb to, like, the tallest skyscrapers in New York, and then there they would explode, spreading, all this cordyceps fungus through miles and miles. And the reason that, like, the U.S. military had to bomb these skylines is that they knew that's how they were going to do it. And it would make these, like New York, Philadelphia, all these cityscapes effectively unlivable, because it is everybody's getting infected. I would have liked if they leaned a little bit more into that, but I do like the infection where it starts, that it contaminated the crops, and then other places that had contaminated crops. If you ate a certain amount of grain, certain amount of wheat, then you were going to be infected on day 1, and then we wouldn't have known. Because guess what? Most people don't really care what's in their food, and then that would have happened. I like that origin story. I just wish they would have been a little bit more into it. In terms of survival tips, listen, high calibers, yeah, you don't be trying to hit them with a 22. Nah, brother, we going 45, 70, and a little bit below that. I hear Molotov cocktails are a really good way of treating fungus. Other than that, there's not really much you can do, dog. Yeah, no, burn it with fire and pray. That's basically your best chance. Would we actually be able to beat this? I'm gonna be real, probably not. I think we would be able to make a comeback after like a decade. But no, I think we would low-key be pretty no-dipped by the cordyceps virus up until a certain point, because it would affect our food, and everybody's getting infected here if that's the case. The RAIDS virus from 28 days later. Number 1, 28 years later is going to be coming out in just a couple of weeks now, and that's actually the reason that I'm making this. There's 2 reasons. 1, the movie's about to come out. I re-downloaded Dying Light 1 because Dying Light 3 The Beast is coming out in August, and I've lately been reading the book by I've been reading a lot of World War Z lately. The book that had a movie that literally has nothing to do with the books, and yes, it still makes me mad now. But that's why I'm low-key in a zombies mood, okay? And yeah, to cover 28 Days Later, this is what I like about 28 Days Later, but I'm gonna give you the origins, okay? It all started from an experiment that was going on in Cambridge because they were trying to make a, I don't even know, brother. It was like a medication to treat like raids. Like, I'm not even kidding you. That was, like, part of the thing. At least if my research was bad, it was just a normal, like, mood-regulating medicine. But they used a modified Ebola strain. Yeah, Ebola. One of the deadly, oh my god. Like, it's so dumb, but I believe that it would be done, okay? So they used a modified Ebola strain to make it, more infectious, and then they started infecting these chimps with it, and then these animal rights activists opened up the caves, and yeah, the chimp started infecting everybody. So, moral of the story, don't be trusting no chimp. I'm gonna be real here, bro. I think chimps are mad overrated. I think they're creepy. My uncanny valley meter is going off wildly. And, brother, absolutely no, okay? I remember when people actually got mad at 28 Days Later for being, like, anti-animal rights because they painted animal rights activists as bad people. No, brother, they don't have to. PETA's legitimately just a weird organization with a good goal, but they're weird people. That's my take on it, if I'm being honest here. Now, let's get into how the virus effectively operates. If you get any saliva, any blood, if that gets in literally any orifice of your body, from your eye holes to your ear holes to any hole on you, if it gets into your bloodstream at all, you will be infected in like 10 seconds. And, okay, my only... I don't like, unless we're going to go, like, the full supernatural route, I don't like when an infection takes you in literally, like, 10 seconds. Because that's not really how it works if we're going to look at literally any other virus, even if we're looking at Ebola. Yes, Ebola is incredibly infectious and it liquefies your organs. You at least have, like, 2 days before you actually start showing symptoms. And I don't know, there's something about the 10 seconds any orifice on your body. It's a little bit overkill to me. But now, that's my gripe on it. One of the pros is that this is probably the most realistic in terms of the infected, like, in zombies. Because they have to eat, and they have to drink. And I like that 28 weeks later is set that distance because that's how long it took to starve the zombies out. When we're talking about that these are raid zombies, it's more just people that are infected with the raid's virus. These are infected people that have a super infectious disease that was modified off the alpha Ebola strain that effectively just makes them super, super angry to the point where they resort to biting you because it does the most damage and it does infect you. And it's not so much as the stereotypical zombie, it just looks like that, okay? And I know somebody's, like, it is primed for actually, that they're not actually zombies because they're not undead, they're merely infected. But I'm going to be honest with you, it's good enough for me that I can look at it and I'm like, okay, that's actually pretty dope how they did that. That you can actually starve out the zombies. And the fact that it happened again and 28 weeks later and then it spread globally and then everybody got infected. The only gripes that I have is it's like, if we can starve out the zombies and they have to drink water, then it actually becomes way easier to contain them because we're going off of human rules and not so much supernatural rules. Okay, that's one of the gripes that I'm going to have. However, another one that I'm going to add on is, would it be way more scarier if it was as infectious as the Ebola virus in terms of if you're around them, you'll be infected? Like, dude, Ebola is absurdly infectious. If you are around anybody with it, you will probably get it. People have to wear full hazmat suits just to interact with people that have the virus when they have like an 80% chance of biting it anyways. Okay? And I think that's one of the things that I do enjoy / dislike about the virus when we're talking about 28 Days Later, is that it is... They are definitely less zombies, undead, and more they're just infected. And I'm looking at 28 years later, I'm kind of like, I think they're leaning into the more undead route, and I don't know how I feel about that. In terms of survival tips dealing with them, literally any way that you would deal with a person plus cardio, okay? The one good news is that if people got the AIDS virus in America, they ain't running as fast as they did in Europe. That's all I'm saying. We got force multipliers. We're going to be able to pack it up with relative ease unless it's as infectious as Ebola, okay? In that case, we're probably going to get packed up, okay? But yeah, no, that's what I think about the 28 days later virus. Only thing that I would really change, honestly, is make it a little bit more infectious like the actual Ebola virus, but maybe that's a little bit too overpowered, but I'll do that point. Walkers from The Walking Dead. This one's going to be really fun and also really annoying, okay? All started from a viral outbreak that occurred in 2010. Anyone else have a lot of nostalgia from 2010, brother? I was on the verge of tears like a few days ago because I remember those Go-Gurt commercials where there was a monkey and then there was Zach and Cody and they were doing giveaways that I don't even think anybody actually got any giveaways. To anyone that remembers that, drop it in the comment section because that had me teary-eyed because that was a thing. Where was I? Oh yeah, The Walking Dead. This is what I don't like about The Walking Dead, is that it is an actual virus. I'm not even kidding you. The pathogen is called the wildfire virus because of how quickly it spreads. That is, okay, fine, it's a virus, okay, and that everybody has it, it's super airborne, I dig it, okay, fine. Everybody has the virus, it's super infectious, and it's airborne. And it reanimates the dead. Okay, so the virus is latent in people, but the moment that like their brain synapses goes off, the virus takes over their brain and then they operate as a human. Okay, that's kind of cool. Okay, you're keeping me. Until I look at the zombies and I'm like, brother, this is supernatural. This has to be. I'm sorry, bro. They operate in a way that there's like, when they're losing so much body fluid to the point that the body itself would refuse to operate. That's when I start looking at it like, okay, these people are not infected. They are possessed by demons. That's the logical conclusion. I'm going to tell you something right now. Sane was 100% right to be like, no man's like that. He took 5 shots to the chest. He's still coming. Rick, he's still coming. Our loved ones are not in there anymore, Rick. Okay? Like, dude, Sane was 100% on the ball here, okay? If I'm seeing my zombified neighbor walk up to me, and I hit them with a 12-gauge slug straight through the chest, and it annihilates the heart, and they get up and walk at me, that is not a person anymore. That's the dead. That is the Walking Dead. That is not a virus anymore. Oh, well, it's not a virus. It quite literally is not a virus anymore. Because there's nothing alive there. There's nothing to infect. This is supernatural. It has to be, okay? And I know technically in comics in the expanded universe, technically the virus came from aliens and it was basically an alien pathogen that started infecting people. That's why it doesn't operate as a normal virus. And you know what? Fine. I'll allow that to be the case. Okay, but this is where they lose me. The zombies are way too weak to actually collapse humanity. They just are. There's no way, okay? I'm reading, like, the World War Z novel, and, like, they have to go out of their way to explain how humanity fell, and there are so many things that went wrong that if it did go right, they could have stopped it not once, not twice, but literally 3 separate times. In The Walking Dead DVSO, I still do not understand how the military fell. Like, at all, brother. It's literally meat pudding people. Okay, at least the zombies in World War Z were okay, in the movie they are swarmers and they have speed. In the book they basically have super strength. But, like, the walkers don't have any of that. I could literally speed walk away from them. Well, in the beginning they could run. Yeah, because they're literally rotting. Eventually, the zombies wouldn't starve to death because, again, they're not infected. They're not actual alive people. They're more or less just, like, reanimated bodies that it's supernatural. It's not a virus. That eventually their bodies will rot away into nothing where they'll just be skeletons. That's effectively where it's going to end with The Walking Dead, especially in places like Georgia. 100% that would happen, okay? And yes, when I'm looking at The Walking Dead, well, like, survival tips, dog, I'm just gonna be honest with you. Literally anything that's even remotely sharp you're probably going to pack up 100 walkers. We would have The Walking Dead packed up in a 3-day weekend. I'm just being honest with you. We're packing that up 3 days, no question, and we're going to ask to bring it back the next year. Okay? That's how I feel about it. Next. The Haran infected from Dying Light. Okay, now let me tell you what I like about the virus from Dying Light, okay? Because it is treated as a bioweapon that was made by the Bro, yeah, no, it's that close. The GRE, and then it infected this town in Haran because they had a pharmaceutical lab that was being created there. That's why they were able to make antizin, and basically were able to make that as a foil for the strand that they were working on in that area. And it more or less, the infection was this close to going global because they were holding a sports event that from everybody around the world that was going to get infected. But they were just able to stop it and contain it in Haran, okay? Now, things I like about it, okay? It feels like a virus, okay? Yeah, if I destroy the heart of something, it's not going to move because it still needs its heart to operate, okay? I also like that this virus, kind of like The Last of Us infected, it is more or less evolving to infect the most amount of people. I do like the day and night thing. I've actually looked into, like, bro, I think that's one of the coolest things that's added. I think the idea that, like, the virus in them can be taken out by UV light, which some viruses do. Actually, a good amount of viruses can be taken out by ultraviolet light. And this virus goes latent in, like, the walkers or samblers in the day, and thus makes them more latent and relaxed. And then at night, the people that are more infected, the volatiles, those people that are going to be a bit stronger, the virus is basically going to juice them up because what it's creating is the perfect carrier of the virus to infect as much people as possible, okay? And when you're looking at the volatile, some of them are so high functioning, I would argue the virus is more of a parasitic relationship in making them stronger so it can infect more people. But they were able to contain it in Haran. Everybody's doing pretty good. Do-si-dee, do-si-do, okay? And then the GRE takes the virus again, juices it up, and then it gets out again in Europe, and then it goes global. I'm gonna be real here, that is probably some of the laziest writing to get a sequel I've ever heard. They just did the same thing, but there were no fail-safes. And I get it. Maybe the reason why I'm salty is that I really dislike Dying Light 2. I think Dying Light 1 is a superior game in just about every way. And maybe that's why I'm salty about it. But, like, I don't like that the reasoning for it is that, oh yeah, we took the same virus, we juiced it up, and then it got out in Europe, and it was okay that it happened in, like, the Middle East. And, man, actually, that's low-key kind of realistic, if I'm being honest with you, dude. Low-key, that's kind of realistic, okay? In terms of types of zombies that we're dealing with, you got your normal Sambler, walkers, you have the exploding type, you have these super beefed up ones that were just strong people and the virus notices that and then it keeps making them stronger. And then you have the spitters, which, you know what, I'll allow you one fun zombie. And then you have the volatile and then you have the demolisher. You know what? I love it, okay? Make them more durable because the virus is essentially a bioweapon that later... Okay, that's another thing. I don't like that the virus then got turned into a super soldier serum because they thought the volatiles were kind of strong. That kind of annoys me a little bit because you went straight to there, but you know what? I'll allow you some cheese. Dying Light 2 is a bit cheesy with how they did it, but I do dig it, okay? Things that I think it could have helped with. I would like more if I felt like the virus was trying different ways of infecting people. Brother, how cool would it be if it gave the volatile an ability to parrot the voices that it hears, and then it draws those people out, and then it picks them off one by one? I think a zombie that has the ability to parrot what it can hear is an untapped gold mine, okay? And I'm gonna be real here, okay? I make money. I don't make enough money. If nobody does it, 100% on the to-do list, on the bucket list, is to do like a 30-minute short film of like zombies that have the ability to parrot the voices of people that it infected. I think that's such an untapped market in terms of zombie abilities. You could do a lot with that. The Flood. Oh boy, I get to actually talk about the flood, okay? The origin of the flood can effectively boil down to there was the forerunners, there was the precursors. The precursors created old biological life, and one of the first lives that they created was the forerunners, humanity, and then a couple, basically everything else, okay? And the precursors are effectively like the genetic engineering gods of the universe at that point, okay? And then the precursors got into a war with the forerunners, and the forerunners were able to beat the precursors because the precursors were already kind of a pretty peaceful society as we understood, and that they more or less lost to their first creation, that being the forerunners, and then the precursors, instead of taking it lying down, effectively turned themselves into dust or a fungus. Okay, this is where we're getting into it. Turn themselves into a fungus and spread themselves like asses all throughout the galaxy. And then the Forerunners went into their golden age. Little did they know that the precursor dust started infecting their dogs, and then it was like their dogs, but also their livestock. So some of them ate the dogs, and then they got infected with, guess what? Turned out to be the flood, okay? This fungus that is literally made out of the basic gods of the universe, the creator of organic life, okay? And then Forerunners started getting infected again, and the Forerunners were able to keep the flood at bay for a time, and there was a time where the flood was able to leave the universe for 10,000 years, and then come back, and then started attacking humanity, okay? There was a time where humanity was fighting the flood and the Forerunners, and the Forerunners, with this extra time, because they had beef with humanity, created the Halo Array as a way of destroying all sentient life in the universe. They effectively hit a Minecraft save quit and never returned to the world because they were so salty that they finally died on their survival world. I'm not kidding you. That was effectively the plan of the Forerunners, okay? So the flood has beaten all of sentient life before, to the point where they had to resort to taking out the rest of it to starve the flood out, okay? And the flood, I gotta preface this, the flood can become just about anything they need to take on the species that they can. Let's go. Abilities is anything they want. They need space travel? Okay, they can learn how to make spaceships. Okay, they need to learn how to be a specific type of weapon. Okay, they're going to make themselves flame resistant. They need to figure out tactics to take out humanity. Okay, we're going to take out a few generals, and then we'll know all their tactics, because all of the knowledge that gets accumulated by the flood gets turned into raw information that goes into the grave mind, and then the grave mind takes that. And I also like I said hive mind because that's effectively what it is, but it's a grave mind because it's all of the knowledge of the fallen. That's so cool. I like that. I like that the flood is probably the best rendition of the space zombie I think I've ever seen. In terms of weaknesses, not much. You have to completely and utterly destroy every bit of biomatter that they have. They can infect you any way that you can possibly think of, from a literal creature jumping on you to spores. They can infect you any way that is the most convenient for them, and that's what makes them as dangerous as possible in terms of different types. In theory, they can create any type of zombie that they want to get the job done. They can operate weaponry if it gets the job done, okay? How do we get rid of them? You either have to destroy all bits of biomatter that is them, or you have to take out all biomatter that they can eat. Yeah, brother, we are cooked. And every single time I talk about the flood, I go into great detail about it. And, yeah, brother, we're still cooked. There's a few other things I haven't brought up about the flood, because maybe I'll make a flood lore video later. But, no, the flood cooks us in just about every way possible. The Freakers from Days Gone, okay? And I get it. I get it. The Days Gone zombies, the Freakers, are a bit too similar to other zombies in fiction. However, I think it does a really good job of combining the infected AIDS virus from the 28 Days Later movies. And honestly, The Walking Dead, in terms of like early Walking Dead, because they are infected. It's not quite that they are undead. And I think that's where they get kind of lost in it, because technically zombies, as how we understand them in pop culture, are the dead that have risen. But I think when we're going over Days Gone, that no, they're still alive. They really are just infected individuals that the sole purpose of basically their meat suits is to infect as many people as possible. In terms of the origin of this virus, it's actually kind of similar to like the Haran virus from Dying Light. It was made by a very sketchy like biotech company that was trying to create it as a, I don't even know. Like, why are you creating something like this, if I'm going to be honest here, okay? And then a whistleblower comes out because he wanted to, you know, blow the whistle on this biotech company, basically Umbrella Corporation from Resident Evil. And then he unwittingly became Patient Zero and then infected everybody because he went to a conference from people all over the world and the virus was latent in them. And then when they went back to their home countries, everybody got infected and boom, everybody now has the freaker virus. Now, this is what makes the freaker virus a little bit more scary to me, is the fact that all of the people that have the virus work as a unit, but they are still alive. They need to drink water, they need to eat food, and they more or less bite you to, well, they'll either eat you in terms of like, you know, because they need some nutrients, and they'll eat other food that's near them, including live animals and fruit. They need water to drink, so you can effectively dehydrate them out. You could, in theory, wait them out. But I think the ultra danger when it comes to them is the fact that they can infect wildlife that's by them. And they don't stop at, this might be a little bit of like a critique that I have with them, is because it infects mammals and it also infects birds. And I'm going to be real here. There's not many viruses that infect birds and mammals at the same time because there's like a compatibility issue when we're talking about viruses. But the fact that it can infect the entirety of the animal kingdom makes it so dangerous, in fact, that I would actually put it above as probably one of the more dangerous viruses because of the sheer amount of ways that they can infect you or ice you. The wolves run faster than a motorcycle. Brother, no. Brother, absolutely not. Brother, we're cooked. There's no other way to say it, brother. We are cooked if that were to happen, okay? In terms of cures, any type of way, I mean, in theory, you could, but I think the way to deal with something like this would have probably be to starve them out, the same way that they deal with the 28 days later zombies, but of course their ability to swarm and work as a cohesive unit, the different types of zombies, that being like the super strong ones, of course, the shriekers that get all of the attention, and then you have the runners that are the wolves, you have the grizzly bears that get, brother, the fact that animals get infected honestly makes this one of the most dangerous that there is. If I had to give any like survival tips like for this thing, it would probably be cardio, and not much. Brother, run as fast as you can and try not to get their attention because you are cooked any other way. Make sure you're in something really, really fast. That's the best way that I could say it. COD Zombies. Where do I even begin with this one? Because there's the technical begin, and that was with Dr. Richtofen that was working with Element 115, and then Element 115, which turned out to be the Ether, and then the Ether came to Earth in a meteorite, and it's like also a reference to Bob Lazar. That's a whole other rabbit hole that we can get into eventually. But then the Ether is like this dark multiversal energy that was originally being played with by like these Lovecraftian entities before the creation of the universe as we understand it. And then that reanimates the dead, and it was used by the Germans in World War II as basically kind of like the movie Overlord. If you guys remember that, that's kind of what that's the best way that I can describe it. But then what it unwittingly did is it reanimated them, but guess what? As Lovecraftian zombies. And then it was relatively self-contained because it's still in World War II, and it's a biological experiment that turns supernatural because also the Germans during World War II were really into the occult. That's another rabbit hole we can get into, is all the weird shit that they did with the occult back then. And it kind of stays in, I don't want to say reality, but the fantasy isn't out here yet. And then when you get into the later COD Zombies, it is literally multiversal demons infecting different multiverses of people with this zombie virus, and then it brings in little Lovecraftian abominations that are literally the spawn of Cthulhu. There's a lot of weirdness in COD Zombies, but I respect the weirdness because this is where zombies can kind of lose me. You either go supernatural, the dead have risen, or you go infected, it is a virus. And it's either one or the other, and I respect that COD Zombies doesn't try to like do both. Like, some of them do. Like, I don't respect The Walking Dead as much because it is very clearly a supernatural thing, but they want to say it's a virus when it doesn't really behave as a virus. And then when we're looking at Call of Duty Zombies, no, bro, this is a supernatural, multiversal, squid, demon entity virus caused by the ether, which is basically Lovecraftian uranium. And guess what? Everybody that gets infected gets their body reanimated. And yes, Cthulhu's also pissed off. And there's the multiverse. And one of the main characters in this MCU zombie universe is Dr. Richtofen that worked with the Germans during World War II. COD Zombies is absolutely insane. COD Zombie lore eventually? I don't know, brother. I need like 500 milligrams of caffeine and a motivational speech by David Goggins to tackle that, if I'm being honest here. How do we deal with it? You don't. You literally don't. Like, no, the point of COD Zombies isn't actually to beat the zombies. It's to see how far you can go before getting beaten by the zombies. It is literally limitless hordes that are coming towards you, and you will lose. Eventually, you will lose. It's wacky, it's zany. Brother, you're literally drinking a pop to get a power-up. It's meant to be fun and silly, and I really do dig it. And honestly, it's probably a lot... Honestly, it probably was... Especially for video games, it was like the first major zombie thing to get me into it. Like, COD Zombies does deserve a lot for popularizing zombies. It definitely in video games because of how popular it was. And at the end of the day, bro, I have to give it to them. It's way better than that Call of Duty Ghost alien thing. And yeah, bro, I hated that too. I really did hate that. Yeah, no, get that out of my face. But yeah, no, COD Zombies is an absolute fever dream, and I love every second of it. And there you go. That is me explaining some of my favorite and least favorite zombies in fiction. A little bit different of a video. I had the notes pulled up. I had to dive a little bit deeper than I normally would for a video. And I don't know when I'm gonna get this one out. Maybe Tuesday. Maybe Thursday. I don't really know. I'm just filming this one. It's Saturday right now. Father's Day is tomorrow. So I hope you wish your fathers a happy Father's Day. And to my fathers in the audience, happy Father's Day. This might be a little bit late, but yeah, I don't know. I'm trying to film this there. We have a lot of, I mean, this is some of the new content that I'm going to be giving you. And again, if you did enjoy this video, like this video, maybe like it, then forget that you liked it, and then you can look back later and you wonder, hey, why did I like that? No, it's because I told you to. We're trying to get to 5K likes on this one. It really is encouraging with like new different types of videos that I do that you can give it a like. You guys came through for the tournament video. I would really appreciate if you came out for this one, okay? A little bit more effort goes into these, and it does mean the most to me, okay? And I think we hit 200,000 subscribers. Again, this is either going out on Tuesday or Thursday, and it's Saturday, and we're literally less than 1,000 away of reaching it, so I'm going to assume we already hit it. And thank you guys for that. I don't know if this is a 200K special. I don't know if that is. I have a Doom lore video I'm cooking up for a 200K, and a few other videos that I'm probably going to be cooking up. Yeah, we have a lot of different content coming over here, and your continued support does mean the most. 250,000 subscribers before the end of the year, 500,000 subscribers before the release of GTA 6. That is the goal, and if you could do that for me, that would mean the most. And you know what? I hope to see you in the next video. Adios, guys.